Okay, this is a tutorial for the Developer Debug Tools plugin. There's a lot to go over, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. First thing, obviously, is to install the plugin. We're going to go to Add Plugin and type in Developer Debug Tools. And then what we'll typically do is go ahead and install it from here. However, we're not going to do that because this is version 2.1.2, and this tutorial is going to be about version 3.0. So I'm going to go ahead and install it directly from my computer here. And activate it. And the first thing we're going to do is go over to settings. Okay, so what's new in 3.0? The UI is completely different. You now have a light mode. You have a ton of performance upgrades. We've cleared out some of the old tools. We've added some new ones. We've expanded customization options for almost every tool in the box. But we're going to go ahead and go through those and show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So we're going to go ahead and skip the instructions at the top, and we're going to go right into the setup. Whether you have already set this up in the past or not with a previous version, you're still going to have a couple of options here that are new. We'll go ahead and just make sure that everything is correct. Add your name here, any other developers that you want, and then pick your time zone, your format, and then I would keep this checked here, which is it's basically going to hide the plugins pages and so forth for non-developers if you have that checked. So highly recommended. We don't want people getting in there that shouldn't be. And then default mode, you can choose dark mode, and now you can also have a light mode if you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it with dark mode and complete the setup. So after setup, it's going to take you to the security settings. We do have a notification at the top with what's new. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then I do want to go over a couple of the settings right off the bat, but we're not going to go through all of them quite yet because it's not really going to make sense until you get into each of the areas. So security settings, just make sure that all of these are looking good. You do have the option to hide the plugin, just like previous versions, but this time you have a little bit more control over what the plugin name is, the description, the author, and so forth. There is an option to view sensitive information. I keep this disabled by default. Just all it does is it adds a black overlay to the text that is sensitive, such as IP addresses, abs path, and so forth. And then we have the ability to password protect the plugin as well as other pages. You can put it in here, and now you have a little bit more control from previous versions as far as how many attempts and lockout duration. And then if you do want to add those extra pages, it's anything in your menu, anything in the back end anyway that you would want to secure. You would add those here. And then plugin data is basic reset options. You do have the ability to also export all the plugin settings and then import it into other sites if you have multiple sites or you just want to make a backup. We're going to go ahead and leave everything as is, though. We don't need to hide it or password protect it. When you're ready to save settings, you have the settings button over here. You can also use Control S now, which is pretty convenient if you're turning things on and off. We're going to go ahead and jump over to the general settings and explain really quick the navigation. The navigation used to have a bunch of tabs at the top in previous versions. Now we have condensed them into the drop down at the top right. And this option right here gives you the ability to open those links in a new tab when you click on them. I like to keep it closed, and I'll show you why in just a bit, but that is an option. Some people like to open new tabs for everything. We are going to jump over to the logging tab and scroll down to the path section. And this is for your debug log, error log, etc. We do want to make sure that these are correct. So typically this is where they are by default in your content folder and then in your root folder and your admin folder. But if those are different, you can change those if they're in a completely different folder from your WordPress installation. You can also start with the / and put the entire absolute path, and it'll find it there. So we do have the ability to add additional log files if you want. And previously it was just text files. Now it's pretty much anything. And you do have these buttons here. They're not just labels. You can actually click on them and it'll verify whether or not they exist, if that path is correct. It's going to show failed if the file isn't there. I don't have anything in an error log, so I don't have an error log yet. But once I do get errors, that'll show up and you'll see that it's verified. And then moving down, we have an activity log as well. It logs activity from all users, not just admins. And I want to know if certain things happen, like deleting accounts, user roles are changed, if we are deleting a post, and then anything to do with plugins or themes. And then some of this other stuff is helpful. I typically do it if I really want to know what's going on with some of the other admins, or if I'm not updating the site on a regular basis. We're going to go ahead and save those settings. And for the rest of the settings, we will go through them as we move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the other pages quick, and I'm going to skip tools right away because that's the bread and butter of this plugin. And I'll jump right over to the changelog. Very simple. Just shows you all the different updates. The resources page has all of the resources that we've added. There is an admin tool up at the top that includes all of these as well. Now you can also delete them with the little dash at the top right of each. You can also add a new one, and then you can also drag and drop them to sort them in any manner that you want. We're going to jump over to the dashboard now. The dashboard is new for version 3.0, and this includes a lot of information like the versions, server metrics, environment, and which used to be up at the top here, but for performance reasons, I didn't want to load them on every single page. So we just made a dashboard for it and added some more information that may be pertinent. There is also the ABS path, which you can see that it's redacted. That's where the view sensitive information comes in. It overlays a black box, which if you just highlight the text, you can reveal it. On the top right here, you also have a button for downloading important files. As you can see with the tooltip, it is a zip file with your WP config file, your htaccess, and your functions PHP. If we scroll down, you'll see that there's a check for site issues section. And right now, this checks 4 things we are going to add to it in the future. And there's also a developer hook if you want to add your own things. But basically, you just hit check now, and it'll show you whether there is an issue found or not. You can see that one is yellow, showing that it's a warning. You can get more information if you click the button, and then it'll give you some actions to take to correct those. At the very bottom, you have a need help section now that I would highly recommend taking advantage of. We have updated how-to guide and developer docs for version 3.0, as well as some support forums. If we scroll up to the top, we're going to now move over to the tools. So the tools page is also new for version 3.0, and this has all of your tools with the description and the ability to turn them on and off, as well as the ability to favorite them. And I'll show you what that means. By turning off an option, for example, if you never use the testing tool, then you can just disable that. And what that does is it disables all of the classes and scripts and so forth from loading. So I would turn them off if you're worried about performance issues. On most of my sites, I don't really need to do that, but there are a couple of sites that I manage that have tens of thousands of users and a lot of activity, and it just seems to help a little bit to disable those. So now favoriting them is another option, like I said, and I typically favorite things like the database tables. I do the HT access, the logs, metadata, site options, the WP config, and I believe that's it. And you can see as I was clicking those, they've been added over here to the admin menu. And previously they were all listed here, and having all the different tools on there was just kind of chaotic. So now I gave you the ability to favorite them instead. Now you can also sort them just like the resources, and that will change the order here as well. And then if you also disable a tool, it will remove it from the navigation. So it does make it easier to find the stuff that you are using. And you can always use this page as a hub to click onto the tool that you want. And we're going to go ahead and do that. And we're going to start with the auto drafts. Now, a lot of these tools in the plugin are going to be informational only, and some of them are going to give you other options such as clearing things. The auto drafts are posts that are created when you click on new post or new page. It gets created as an auto draft first before you even save it. And then once you save it, it gets changed to a draft or published and gives it a title, etc. But if you don't save it and you go back in your browser or you close the browser window, that auto draft stays there in the database and you don't even know about it. So this page gives you the ability to clear those out. You can clear them individually on the right here on the table, or you can clear them all, or even just older ones if you wanted to save the newer ones for whatever reason. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move on and go over to the cookies. And just like the auto drafts, it gives the ability to see the cookies as well as clear them individually, clear them in bulk. You do have an option also to give yourself a test cookie. For example, if I do that, you can see that that there's a test cookie right here. You can look for the DDTT prefix, which is for this plugin, and then you can clear it as well. You do have the option to also automatically check for new cookies. So if you're testing something in a different tab or a plug or a different browser, then you can keep this page open. Just turn that on, keep it open, and watch it. It'll listen for new cookies coming in. That way you don't have to come back, refresh, come back, refresh. It works in the background. Let's move on to the cron jobs. Now this page just shows you all the cron jobs, unlike a plugin like Control, WP Control. And I do recommend that other plugin if you are trying to manage your cron jobs. This is purely informational, but the other one is great. It does allow you to add your own crons or delete them or change the actions, and it does give you a lot more flexibility with seeing exactly what is going on and even change the occurrences and run times. So, but this is a great tool just to see what you have without having to worry about all the other stuff. Moving on to database tables. This here gives you the ability to view records in the tables without the anxiety that going into PHP MyAdmin, for example, gives you when you go into there and you're afraid to touch anything because then something could happen that's going to break your entire site. So I like to have a safer option by coming in here and doing something like, let's go to the options, and you can see all the table elements are here, and you can search through the records, but you can't edit anything on here. So if we move to the defined constants page, this is similar. We do have the option to look at the different constant categories and then choose a constant from the list. Now, just to let you know, the user one is usually where everything is categorized from plugins and themes and so forth. So if you're looking for something with a specific prefix that you're used to seeing in like your plugin, then I would look here first. You can also search for them as well. Now the next tool is Discord Messenger. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's a chat app where you can create a private group space that they call servers. And inside the server, you create channels, which are like rooms for different types of topics or discussions. When you create a server, only people that you have given an invite link to will be able to join. I like Discord particularly because it's a much more reliable way to receive notifications compared to email that can be delayed or just not show up for whatever reason. Now, Discord also has a webhook feature that allows you to send messages to a channel from outside of the app, and this plugin gives you the option to send fatal errors to a private Discord channel as they happen using this webhook, as well as notifications for when someone logs into your site. Now, to do that, we would go to the settings and then jump over to logging. And then you can see right here, there's enabled Discord webhook for fatal errors. And you would add the webhook into this field. If you want to get notifications of who's logging in, then you would go to the online users spot, scroll down, and enable the Discord webhook as well. And so let's go ahead and go back to where we were. Now, the Discord Messenger tool basically allows you to test these options out by sending a test message to your server. And it gives you a ton of options to be able to control what those messages do through that webhook. That way you don't have to trigger a fatal error just to be able to test it out or log out, log back in, etc. So, and then once you test it out, everything's good, then you can just use it for fun if you want to. You can just pretend you're a bot and talk to people on your server and or whatever you want to do. But anyway, so the globals tool is very similar to the constants, where you can select one of them. And for example, if we go to submenu, this will show you everything that is in the submenu global. And as you can see, some of these look a little bit different. All that is giving you the ability to expand because it's a little bit longer. And let's go over to the htaccess. Now, the htaccess and the WP config tools are going to be pretty much the same. It's going to give you all the same options. It's basically just a reader. And then now you have the ability to edit raw and edit using snippets. The previous version had the snippets functionality, but now you have the raw editor and a few other options. And I'm going to go through what those are. Now, before you do anything, I do recommend, obviously, to download a backup of the file before you make any edits. So as you can see, we do have the reader here, which does color the syntax, and you can change those colors easily from here if you want to, and it does it live. You can also reset it if you want. There is a backup section at the bottom. Like I said, the plugin does backup before you save. You can view those old backups and then restore the backup. Now, the two different editors that I was talking about is the raw edit and the snippets. I'm going to start with the raw edit because that's going to be the most common way to edit stuff. And what that does is just allows you to edit inline. And then we have a cleaner, which is this little icon over here. And what that is it cleans your file by doing all sorts of things like removing double lines and stripping extra comments, unnecessary comments, and so forth. And you would basically just click this right here, and then it would automatically edit everything. And then you can review it. And before you save it, if it doesn't look good, cancel, redo it. Now, these options are configurable in the settings as well. So if we jump over to settings and go to config files, you'll see that there's a WP config cleaner and an htaccess cleaner. And all the different things that can be done with that cleaner, you can disable or keep enabled. So it's nice to have a little bit more control that way. But let's go back, and now the snippets editor is going to give you the ability to add or remove full snippets without having to go find them and copy them and paste them into your raw editor. So this will automatically detect if some of them are on here, and then you can just click add or remove. You can update inline if you want to, and then you can also at the very bottom add your own snippets if you want to. But once you do that, for example, if I wanted to add this one here, I can hit preview file and it's going to show at the bottom the one that I added. So, and then I can just hit save as current, hit OK, and you can see that it's been updated successfully. And then now we're looking at my current one. You can see that it's added at the bottom there. So the same thing goes for the WP config file. Same exact thing. You can view it here. You can go to the raw editor and make edits there. You can add snippets just like you would in the htaccess. Again, just make sure you download a backup before you make any changes. So let's move on to logs. Now, logs is probably the one that I use the most. And this is going to show you your debug log, any of those, the error logs and so forth, your activity log, any of those logs that you added to the settings. It'll show a tab up here, and then you can switch between them. Now, this is the easy reader for the debug log, and you can switch from the easy reader to the raw view, and it will show you what that looks like, just like it would if you downloaded the file. It's going to show you in UTC time zone and their format and so forth. The easy reader, you can see formats it like we selected in our settings with our time zone, and then it breaks it down a little bit, parses all the error, and makes sure that you can see everything a little bit easier. You can also copy an error so that you can search for it, and then you can get help with the error here. You can click on it, see a little bit about that error. You can learn more, or you can search for it here as well. That just goes right to Google. Now you can add more. You can also edit these help boxes with the developer hook too. You can change the links. You can change the descriptions. We do have a help map that you can add to. And you'll notice on the side here we have a quantity, and that shows that there were 9 of these and 9 of these. And as you saw in the raw view, right? But in the easy reader, you do have the option to turn that combining off as well. So that way you can see all of them here. Now you can also look at the most recent on top and swap those in real time, and where you couldn't before in previous versions. You do have the ability to look at the last X number of items right from here. You can search through the log and just filter it that way, or you can also exclude different things on or different entries based on keywords. These are also links if you just want to look for fatal errors and parse errors. Do make note that if you filter these, that it's still going to show you the count of the number of line items that are in your log, regardless if you filter it or not. That way you know if you're filtering, you still have a ton of log entries that it's starting to build up, and then you can just clear it. So it's nice here if you hit the clear button, it will clear the log and you can start from scratch. When I do my debugging, I come over here and clear it out so that it's easy to find my errors, and then go do my testing, and then come back here, hit the refresh button, and check it out. Just also note that this refresh button is on a nonce, and those nonces expire just like any nonce does. So if you have this open for a long time, for several hours, eventually that's not going to work anymore, and just refresh the page once and it'll start working again. So you also have the same thing for the activity log. Obviously, we haven't logged any activity yet, but they're going to show up pretty much the same way here. So let's jump over to the settings. for logging, and I'll go over a few of those extra ones now that you've seen what the logs look like. You also have the option to change the maximum log size, which is basically what happens is if your log gets way too big because you're logging everything and you're keeping it on, it will eventually crash the back end and you won't be able to log in through the back. So you would have to go through your FTP or through File Manager or whatever and clear the log by deleting it or opening it, clearing everything out, and saving it. And in order to get back on here. So the max log size basically just informs you, it blocks you from viewing the log if it reaches this max. So it doesn't prevent the back end, obviously, from having access, but you do want to keep an eye on that. And I like to keep it at 10 megabytes because that's pretty huge for a log. Now, logging back traces is an option now. You can log them for deprecations, notices, warnings, and errors, and definitely use that temporarily. Don't keep that on all the time. Again, like previous versions, you have the WP mail failures option to log. And then just to note on the bottom here, if you are going to do the activity log for when user meta keys are updated or post meta is updated or site settings are updated, you can see those options up here. It does start to bog down with activity if you're doing these in, for example, transients are a big one. We don't want to log every single time a transient changes or certain meta keys change. So you can add those meta keys here. It also allows using an asterisk as a wildcard. So anything that starts with transient, for example, will be skipped. So let's move forward and go to the metadata section. Now, the metadata tool is similar to the old versions, user meta tool and post meta tool. But now we have an entire section for user meta, post meta, term meta, comment meta, and media meta. And it works the same way as it used to, but it gives you more flexibility, more customization options, and it's cleaner. So basically you have some general information at the top here, and then followed by some object meta. And you can see here we can also edit inline any of these options that are not locked. And then below that is custom meta, where you can also delete some of these keys. You can add a new one if you want. And then you have also these options to hide transients and show transients, and then also the UI settings, which are like meta boxes that you hide or reposition inside the post edit screen, or the site options if you are on an admin list table and want to hide a column, for example. Those are all saved to the user's profile under the custom meta. And so there's a ton of those, and they kind of bog things down or flood your custom meta that when you're otherwise trying to sort through it and during your development and testing and so forth. So you can also hook into which keys are hidden using a developer filter. So, but anyway, if you go on down underneath that, you also have the ability to manage your roles and capabilities. And then at the top, you'll notice a section for customizing, very similar to the logs, where you can search and filter using keywords. And then you have options as well to hide or show different sections. So if you don't ever care about the object meta, then you can just hide that and not have to worry about looking at it every time you load the page. We also have action buttons here. Reset user is basically just going to wipe out your custom meta down here and leave all of your object meta. And then your download user action will download the user object as a JSON file, and that will include your object meta, custom meta, roles, capabilities, all in one JSON. Now you have also now the ability to import a user using the same structure. So if you download the JSON file and edit it, you can do that and import it in settings, which will open up here. You can see there's this import option right here. And now if you do want to, for instance, create a new user or a new post or whatever kind of object you're wanting to, you can just delete the ID key and it will create a new one. Or if you have the ID key, then it'll override the existing one. So just keep that in mind. Also, you'll notice in these settings, there's the protected meta keys section where I showed you that are locked right here. You can lock whichever ones you want using this list here. So now obviously ID is always protected, but everything else you can change. So let's go back and I'll show you very similarly the post meta. It doesn't have anything. Let's see, what's one of the posts? If we go to post here, you'll see that we have ID 1. Now this is called a quick link. This is also added by the plugin. You can see this little lightning bolt, and I'll show you where those quick links are. But if you click on the lightning bolt, it will open up that post in the post meta tab, and you can just review the information straight from there without having to grab the ID, come back, type it in, and search. So, and just like the user meta, the post meta comes with the object and custom sections as well as a taxonomies now, and you can update the terms from here. Again, you can download the post and then import it from the settings, just like the user one. So now if we jump back over to the settings, I'm going to show you where those quick link options are. Under the admin area, you can see that there are quick links all over the site. So you have user ID quick links, post ID quick links. You also have some for the comments. And then this just makes it easier to search by ID in the admin list table search box. So let's go ahead and move forward. Before I show you the rest of those admin settings, we're going to go to PHP info. Now, similar to the some of the other tools, this is just informational only, and this just gives you all of your PHP information. Basically, your PHP info function that's printed here and formatted in a way that is easier to read. So. Now you have your PHP INI, which is the same thing. It's just informational, but it gives you all the options at a glance here, which if you want to search for anything, I always use Control F and search for a key and make it easy to look through. And then post types is it gives you the ability to search for a post type and then look at its settings, labels, and associated taxonomies. So if I look at posts, for example, it will show me all of those right here. And now, similar to post types, you also have taxonomies. So if we go to taxonomies, you'll see that it's the same thing, but instead of taxonomies, it's associated post types. So now we'll go back over to the REST APIs section. And this section gives you the ability to check the status for all of your APIs that are on the site. And then you can also view them right from here. So now you can check one individually. It'll show you the status code and the status. Or you can also check all API statuses and it'll show you going down that list. We'll go ahead and stop that so it's not running all the way down because there's a ton. But now if you go to like a good one, for example, this one is okay. We can view that and it'll show you exactly what that looks like on the API side. Now, moving forward, we do have a section for server information as well, and that is CPU information as well as memory information. And it breaks down also the usage percent, which is also on your dashboard. And then under server information is sessions. Sessions is pretty much just like the cookies, where you can view the different sessions. You can clear them individually or in bulk. You can give yourself a test one, and you can automatically check for new sessions just like you did the cookies. Same thing also goes for transients. So pretty much the same exact thing as the other stuff. And then you can also purge expired only or clear all of them from this. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the shortcodes. This page shows you all of the shortcodes that are available to you on the site. And it also gives you the ability to search the website for those shortcodes. So for example, we have an example one here. And if you search for that, and it'll show you what pages are using this shortcode. And then it'll show you how many times it was used on the page. And then you can click over and review the page to see where it's at. At the top here, you can also just select one from the drop down instead of clicking on the search button down below. And you can also filter attributes if you want a specific shortcode with those attributes. Now the next tool is going to be signups. Now signups are if you have registrations enabled on your website and you require them to confirm via their email. What it does is it adds a sign up to your database, and then if something happens, like it expires, then it remains on the site and doesn't allow that person to re-register with a new activation key. Now, if you have Gravity Forms installed, this also includes an activation link. So you can just copy that link and you can click it yourself, or you can have you can send it to the user to redo it if they lost it, or you can just clear it and then they can do it again instead of having to try to sign up with a different email. Now the next tool is going to be site options. And this page is going to be informational. If we start down here, you can see all the options that are on the site. And then it shows you the source, which a lot of these, if they're transients, then they might be unknown. It'll show you what the group is, if it's auto-loading or not, and then the size. And then you can also look at the value in a prettier print. Above that is going to be your all auto-loaded top 20. So now if you're not familiar with auto-loading, basically when you have an option, by default, WordPress will auto-load all options unless you set them to no. So when you have a ton of options, which most people do, and a lot of those options are very large, then it will slow down the loading of your page. So this top 20 is top 20 by size, and you can see some of the options that may be way too big that you want to check out and possibly delete. A lot of options. One site that I went through just the other day, you can see that some of those options were 2, 3, 400 kilobytes for one option. And as you can see, I mean, this one's just 21 kilobytes. And if we go to that one, you can see how much data is just in one option of 21 kilobytes. And some options are 200-300, and they are just huge with a lot of information. And again, you add those up and they start slowing down your site. And so what you want to look for is you want to try to keep under 200 to 300 kilobytes for a big site. This is a fresh install with that we test plugins. So there's only 55 kilobytes on this one. I typically run around 150 to 200 on on some of the smaller sites that are fully developed, but it'll tell you if it's healthy or not. Like I was saying, just the other day, I was going through and these huge options were, most of them were from old plugins that I no longer use, like from WooCommerce and from a caching plugin. So I just went ahead and deleted them. Now, the great thing about that is you have the option here for a bulk delete. And if you enable that and scroll down, you can see now you have this option on the left that gives you checkboxes to select which ones you want to delete. And then you would just hit delete selected, and then you're good to go. And at the top, you have a link for going to the options.php page if you want to do that. So now let's go ahead and move forward, and we're going to go to the testing tool, which is going to be the last one we're going to go over. And this is just an improved version. Prior versions, the testing tab was difficult to use. You had to actually download a file and then edit the file and then upload that to your server in order to test things. And I wasn't really using it. Not a whole lot of people were. So I just converted this page to test straight from a box. So now you can just add your code here and it will appear at the top as soon as you hit run code. And then it'll save it so that the next time you come, you can look at your old progress and continue testing. So now that concludes all of the tools and pages that we have. So I'm going to go through some of the rest of the settings. So now jumping over to the settings, and let's go ahead and go over to Heartbeat. Heartbeat gives you the ability to enable monitoring. So you have your Heartbeat API that works in the background. It goes every minute, I believe, in the admin area, and every 15 seconds on the front. And when you enable this and save it, then refresh the page. And then you can see now that we have this counter on the bottom right. And if you go to inspect in your console, you'll see that it's starting to load. And then every minute or however long it takes, 15 seconds in the front end, you'll see some data that is being loaded in your Heartbeat. So, but I'm going to keep that disabled. You have a little bit more control over the Heartbeat by disabling it altogether if you really wanted to. I keep them enabled at all times, so I don't worry about that. But let's move on to the admin area. So now if we go where we left off, and there is an option now for including the path for the poster page in the admin list tables. For example, if we go to posts, and now you'll see that there's this path column here, which is super helpful if you're looking, because I mean, I don't know how many times I go and look at the path in the bottom left corner of the screen by highlighting view when we can just have a column for it. Now, if you didn't want to use that, obviously you can just disable it from there, or you can disable it from settings. On the bottom, you have a section for plugin enhancements. Now you can enable, disable it here, and then you can also enable or disable individual enhancements. So now the plugins page is going to be your plugins tab over here, and I'm going to open up this in the background so I can show you what each of these are. Over here, you can see you've got your size here, and then your path, and then your last updated, and then installed by. Now your installed by will start to show automatically once you have enabled that in your settings. But prior plugins are going to show unknown, and then you can just edit it inline if you wanted to. And then the notes is going to be this edit note section here. So now if you wanted to add a note, like this is my debugging plugin, save that note, it's going to show you underneath the description and so forth. So this is a really great tool just in case you need a reminder, or if you're working on, for example, a government site or a site that is funded by government grants, then their requirements are going to include that you have notes on every plugin and the reason why you're using it on the website. So now let's go back over to the settings here and go over to the admin bar section. Now, admin bar is going to have a few more things that were in the previous versions and then also new in 3.0. The first option is to remove the WordPress logo, which is this one right here, because who needs to know about WordPress anymore? The add log error count is this right up here, which you normally saw in previous versions up in the admin area, which you can now keep if you wanted to go to logging and enable it here. That will add the count to the left, but now you have complete control to do either or. And by clicking on it, it goes to the logs. So if we go back over to the admin bar and continue down the list, we have that resources menu, which I showed you before. You can just disable that. Adding your user ID will put it over here instead of saying howdy. And then the page loaded time will show up on the bottom here. And what that does is if you have a couple different tabs open and you're comparing them from before you make the edits and after, and then you start to forget which one is which, you can always look at the page loaded time and see which one was loaded first. But obviously I don't need that by default, so I keep that disabled. Now the condense admin bar items option I use on all of my sites because I can't stand having all this clutter at the top here. So I just choose either developer only or everyone if I'm the only one that has access, and then hit settings. And you'll see if you look at the top, I'll go ahead and refresh the page, and you can see now it's condensed. It basically just removes all of those words. I forgot to remove the WordPress logo. And reload. You can see that's gone now. And then over on the right, you can also see that my name was removed because I know who I am. Now on the front end, there are some options as well. So this add links to the admin bar is going to, if we look at the front end of the site, you'll see at the top, this dashboard icon now has extra links, and that is including all of the links from your menu. Now you can also refresh those links, but it is automatically going to find links from your admin bar, and then then it's cached, and anytime you install or deactivate a plugin, for example, it will add or remove them from this list. You can also hook into this list with the developer hook as well. Now the post ID type and status option is, if we go back here, you can see what that is here, and that gives you the information about the page that you're on. And if you click that, then it actually goes to the post meta tab, and you can debug it straight away. So shortcodes finder is going to be this right here, and it's going to show you the different shortcodes. This is a count, so it's showing you 0 shortcodes are found, and that'll change to however many shortcodes you have on the page. So if we go to, for example, the sample page, you can see that there was 1, and it'll show you how many of each of those shortcodes there are. So there's that example shortcode that I showed you in the shortcode finder tool. It detected that it's on this page here. Now, the centering tool is going to be this little tool right here that says off. And if you highlight it, you'll see that there are some options here to control what that grid looks like when you turn it on. And by turning it on, you just click on it, and you can see now that this little grid at the top has shown up. And if you click on that grid, it will expand all the way down the page. Now I can see how wide my containers are, and you can hover over, for example, on the left side of this, you can see that it's 637 pixels wide. And then you can make those changes to the cell width, the height, all that stuff, the background, the opacity of the background, uh, right from this page. Before, you didn't have hardly any control over this, but working with other graphic designers and so forth, front-end developers, I worked with them to find out what they found more useful. Go ahead and turn that back off. And now if you have Gravity Forms, which I don't have installed on this site, there's also a Gravity Forms Finder tool, and that option will show up here as well. But it'll show up very similar in this admin bar, and it will show how many forms are on the page, and it'll show you what the ID is for that form. And when you click on the ID, it goes to edit that form. So now the last thing I want to show you in the admin bar is also the online users section. And you can see that there's this online users spot here on the admin bar, and that shows you the count of how many are online. And then at the top here, you can see that it's just me. But if I had other members that have logged in, you'll see them listed here. And the little bug shows you that I'm a developer. Now, you have all the different options on here for controlling what that looks like. So you can enable it or disable it here. You can also change the interval time of how long it's been since they were last seen online, which is basically when they've loaded a page. So if they've been on a page for 15 minutes, they're going to show offline after 5 minutes. But typically, you don't see a lot of people doing that. And now, if you have admins that are doing that and you want to have a little bit more control, you can enable a heartbeat. And the heartbeat is used in the background via Ajax and the Heartbeat API. And that will basically check it every however often you set here, like 1 minute, and it will continue to show them as logged in. So if they're on the page for 30 minutes, then it's still going to track them online. Now, you don't want to do that, obviously, for every user if you have a lot of people logged in at once. So you have the ability to change which roles are tracked or monitored via the heartbeat. And then you can also change which roles are tracked, period, and then priority roles, which are going to basically just show you at the top. So if you want to see, for example, editors above all of the other subscribers, then they'll show up on the top of the list. Now, this other option here is to change the user link URL. So if you see here, I can hover and you can see that it will go to the edit page for that user. And you can change that link here and just use the user ID merge tag for a placeholder. But that is about it. Now, there are a couple of hidden things on here, one being the mode. So previously, when you in the welcome screen, you decided whether you want a dark mode or light mode, and you don't have that option to change it anywhere in your settings. So the way that you would do that is go over here and on the bug here, if you click on that, you can change it to light mode or dark mode, and it'll do that on any page that you're on. So it's easy to go back and forth. The other hidden feature is going to be your test mode. And test mode is basically just used by us. And if you look at the version here and you click on that, it'll show that test mode is active. You won't ever need to use that, but if you accidentally click on this and wonder what test mode is, that's what it's for. And you might be asked to use it if you're contacting support and with an issue on the plugin. So, but that's about it. if you have any questions, I highly recommend, again, going to the dashboard and clicking on the how-to guide or the developer guide and going through those. You can see that there's a lot of documentation here on how to use the plugin. The developer documents show all of the different functions available to you, as well as developer hooks, and give you all of them have example usage code that you can take advantage of. Some of those functions are very useful that I use, for example. Like a DPR function prints. It's basically a print R version of on steroids, and it's easier to use because you're just typing DPR instead of uh, print underscore R. But and it also pretty prints the values on the page instead of having to wrap in pre-tags and so forth. So, but there are a lot of different options that you can do. You can print a console or an alert, which is your JavaScript functions. Use it in PHP for debugging. You can write straight to the log. But go through those, and if you have any questions whatsoever, contact us. Let us know. There is a support forum that is on our website that we recommend as your first step. If you have something to go back and forth and chat with us on, then I would definitely check out the Discord support server and just send us a message, and we'll jump on there and take care of you. So if you like the plugin, be sure to go and rate it and give us a review. It definitely helps get this out. But again, this is an entirely free plugin. There are no premium options whatsoever. So I hope you enjoy it and have a good day.